The wind carried the smell of smoke and iron. The ruins of the alien battlefield stretched far into the distance. Burned towers leaned like broken bones, and the ground was cracked from past explosions. Ash drifted in the air, falling slow, like black snow dot in the middle of this destruction. A woman stood with a glowing blade in her hands. The weapon hummed softly, bright against the shadows. Her grip was tight. Her breath shook. Her eyes locked on the man sitting only a few steps away. The man did not move. He leaned against a broken wall of stone. One leg stretched out, the other bent. His face was calm, almost relaxed, like he had been waiting for her. His short, dark hair was messy, and his uniform was torn, but his eyes burned like fire under the dirt. The woman's voice cracked when she spoke. Any last words? For a moment, there was only silence. The hum of the blade, the sound of distant fire, the echo of ruins. Then, slowly, the man smiled. "Yeah," he said, his voice smooth, quiet, but filled with confidence. "You're holding it wrong." The words cut sharper than any weapon. The woman blinked. She had trained for years, fought countless battles, but in that instant, her hands trembled. She wanted to strike him down, yet something in his voice made her hesitate. He was not afraid. He was not begging. He was not broken. Why? She tightened her grip on the blade, but her mind began to spin. Who was this man, really? Why did he smile like he knew something she did not? The battlefield around them seemed to fade. The ruins became background noise. In this one moment, it was only the two of them, warrior and prisoner, hunter and prey. Yet something was wrong. The woman's name was Captain Ilara. She had fought the Vayari, the alien conquerors, since she was old enough to hold a weapon. She had lost friends, family, and more battles than she could count. She had sworn never to hesitate, never to doubt. But standing here, staring at this man, doubt slid into her heart like a knife. His name was Commander Kale, or at least that's what they said. Rumors surrounded him. Whispers carried through the ranks. Some called him a hero. Some called him a traitor. Some swore he was a ghost who walked away from death too many times. Now she had him. Right here. Blade against his chest. But he smiled. That smile, it was the smile of someone who knew the ending of a story she had not yet read. Wrong? She forced out, her voice harsher than she intended. "You're about to die. That's the only thing." "That's right." Kale tilted his head slightly, as if listening to a sound only he could hear. "If you kill me now," he said softly, "you'll never know the truth." Ilara's heart skipped. She told herself not to believe him, not to listen, but her blade wavered an inch. The truth. She hated how the word clung to her. The silence stretched longer. Somewhere far off, a building collapsed, and the crash echoed like thunder across the ruins. The ash swirled in the air, coating her armor, clinging to her skin. "Do you know why they fear me?" Kale asked suddenly. His eyes locked on hers. Sharp and unblinking, Ilara froze. She did not answer. She had heard the rumors, yes. The enemy, the alien Vayari, hunted Kale with more desperation than they hunted anyone else. Why? No one knew. Or maybe no one lived long enough to tell. Kale leaned forward, slow, deliberate. Even wounded, even cornered, he moved with the control of a predator. "They taught me their secrets," he said, his voice low, dangerous. "And now I can end them." Ilara's chest tightened. The words rattled in her mind. She wanted to push them away, to finish her mission, to strike the blade through his heart. But she hesitated again. If he was lying, killing him was justice. If he was telling the truth, killing him was suicide. The blade shook in her hands. She hated this feeling. She was not supposed to shake. Cale's smile widened, though his eyes carried no humor. "You have a choice, Captain. Kill me, or listen." The hum of the weapon grew louder, filling the air between them like a living thing. Her breath came. Heavy. Sweat slid down her brow. This was not how battles were supposed to feel. This was not war. This was something else. A game of shadows. A story half told. Elara's jaw clenched. She did not lower the blade, but she did not strike either. For the first time in her life, she was trapped not by chains, not by enemies, but by curiosity, and Cale knew it. His final whisper crawled into her ears, like a secret meant only for her. "You want to know why you're holding it wrong?" he said. His voice was almost gentle now. "Because it's not meant for killing me. It's meant for saving all of you." The words hit harder than any blade could. Alara's breath caught. The ruins around them seemed to shiver, like the world itself knew a storm was coming. And she realized this was only the beginning. The fire in the ruins slowly died, leaving behind smoke that twisted into the dark sky. Captain Elara did not lower her blade, but her thoughts drifted back to the world that had shaped her, back to the war that had never ended. The world was broken long before she was born. The Veari came like shadows from the stars. No one knew where they truly came from. Some said they were conquerors from another galaxy. Others whispered they were older than time itself. The truth didn't matter. What mattered was that they came, and they took. They did not ask. They did not talk. They arrived with ships the size of cities, their hulls black as night, their weapons brighter than suns. They burned the skies, crushed cities, and bent entire worlds to their will. And they were merciless. Humanity fought back, of course. Humanity always fights. But the wars with the Veari were not wars. They were survival. Whole planets turned into graveyards. Whole fleets lost in hours. Earth itself was scarred, its surface cracked, its oceans poisoned by alien fire. And yet, humanity endured. That was the thing about humans. They broke, but they did not vanish. They bent, but they did not stay down. For every city lost, 100 fighters rose. For every fleet destroyed, a new one was built in secret. This was the life Elara had been born into. She had never known peace. Her first memory was not of laughter, not of family, but of hiding in the ashes while alien machines thundered above. Her parents died before she could remember their faces. Her childhood was war camps, broken shelters, and endless drills. By the time she was 16, she carried a weapon more often than food. By the time she was 20, she had already buried too many friends. She rose through the ranks not because she wanted power, but because everyone stronger kept dying. Now she was Captain Elara, and she carried humanity's last hope like a weight across her shoulders. But hope was fragile. The resistance whispered of the final dawn, a secret plan hidden deep in the archives of Earth's last command. A plan that could destroy the Veari, or destroy everything left of humanity. No one knew the details. Only that it involved an ancient alien weapon, a relic from before the Veari conquest. A weapon buried so deep in forgotten ruins that even the aliens feared to touch it. Elira's mission was to find it, to retrieve it, to make sure humanity's last gamble did not fall into the wrong hands. And this is where Cale entered her story. Commander Cale was not like anyone else. He was a soldier, yes, but he was something more. The first time she saw him, he was standing on the battlefield with smoke curling behind him and alien blood dripping from his hands. He fought like a man who had seen the end of the world and refused to accept it. But there was something about him that set people on edge. Something in his silence. Something in the way the Veari hunted him more than they hunted entire fleets. Whispers followed him wherever he went. He was captured once. He made a deal with them. He knows things no human should know. Maybe he's not even human anymore. Elara hated whispers. Whispers divided soldiers. Whispers killed armies. But she could not ignore the questions in her own heart. She had seen him tear through enemies with inhuman precision. She had seen him open alien tech as if it was his own. She had seen him smile in the face of death like death was an old friend. The Resistance had forced them together for this mission. She didn't like it. She didn't trust him. But the order was clear. Elara, you and Kale will lead the mission to recover the weapon. Bring it home, no matter the cost. And now, standing in these ruins, with the glowing blade pointed at him, she wondered if this was what they meant by no matter the cost. The battlefield felt colder the more she thought of it. Every ruined tower around them was a grave. Every broken wall was a tombstone. The silence of the dead weighed heavier than her. Armor.Kale broke that silence with a single sentence that haunted her. You'll never know the truth if you kill me now. The truth? What truth? Her chest ached with questions she refused to voice. What did he mean? How could a man like him hold knowledge even the generals didn't know? How deep did his connection to the Veari go? But there was something worse, not something. She had seen with her own eyes, but could not admit. When Kale looked at her, his eyes burned with something alien, not entirely human, not entirely enemy, something in between. And if that was true, then perhaps the whispers were right. Perhaps he was the key to destroying the Veari. Or perhaps he was the weapon that would finally end humanity. Ilara's grip on the blade tightened. She hated this. She hated him. She hated the war. But most of all, she hated the part of her that wanted to hear him out. The war had already stolen everything from her. If Kale was the next thief, she swore she would cut him down before he had the chance. Yet deep inside, a single, cursed thought kept echoing in her mind. What if he is the only one who can save us? The ashes swirled again, carried by the cold wind. And Elara knew this story. Her story, his story, humanity's story, was only beginning. The mission, the orders came in silence. No speeches. No banners. No promises of glory. Only a coded message burned into Elara's datapad. Recover the artifact. Do not fail. Humanity depends on it. That was how the Resistance worked. No ceremony. No honor. There was no time for that. They were a dying species clinging to scraps of freedom. Always hunted. Always bleeding. Orders were sharp and merciless. Just like the war dot, the artifact. That was what the message called it. But everyone whispered the same thing in the shadows. The Final Dawn weapon. Some said it could destroy an entire Veari fleet with a single strike. Others believed it was a shield that could protect Earth forever. A few feared it was worse. Something so powerful it might end humanity itself if awakened. No one knew the truth, and those who searched for it before had never returned. Elara had expected to lead this mission with her own team. Soldiers she trusted, fighters who had bled at her side. Instead, command had chosen Kale, the man with alien fire in his eyes, the man who made her doubt herself, the man who smiled when blades pointed at his chest. Elara hated it, but she understood why. Kale was different. He could read alien tech like it was human language. He could sense enemy movements before they happened. He was a weapon the Resistance didn't understand, but needed. And so, the mission began. The journey into shadows. Their ship was no grand vessel, just a stolen transport patched together with scavenged parts. Its engines coughed instead of roared, and its shields were more prayer than protection. But it carried them through the black void, silent and unseen, like a ghost ship slipping through the stars. The target was a dead world at the edge of known space. Once, long ago, it had been a thriving colony. Now it was nothing but ash and ice, shattered cities frozen under alien storms. The Veyari had glossed it in their first wave of conquest, burning everything until only bones remained. That was where. The weapons slept out. The closer they drew, the heavier the silence became. The crew whispered in tight voices, glancing at Kale when they thought he wasn't looking. Even Elara could feel the shift in the air, a pressure like unseen eyes watching. From the darkness beyond the stars, Kale said nothing. He sat in the corner of the ship, sharpening a blade that wasn't human-made. Its surface shimmered with alien runes, glowing faintly with each stroke. His calm made everyone else more nervous. At one point, Elara snapped. "You could at least pretend you're human," she hissed. Kale didn't look up. "Pretending won't save us." The words silenced her, though anger burned hot in her chest. She hated that he was right. The descent, when they landed, the world greeted them with silence. The ground was black glass, cracked and jagged from old fires. The wind carried the echoes of the dead. Towers, once proud, now stood broken, their metal bones jutting into the gray sky. Ilara's team moved in formation, weapons raised. Every step felt wrong. Too quiet. Too still. Kale walked at the front, his eyes scanning ruins like he knew them. When one soldier muttered, "Why does he look like he's been here before?" Elara silenced him with a glare, but the thought echoed in her own mind. The ruins led them into a canyon of shattered metal, deeper and deeper, until they reached the heart of the dead city. And there it was, the vault, a massive door of alien design, untouched by time, sealed by energy fields that shimmered like liquid light. Symbols carved across its surface glowed faintly, pulsing like a heartbeat. No human could have opened it. No human except Kale. At first doubt, Kale stepped forward. He placed his palm on the glowing surface, and the door responded. The runes lit, brighter, shifting, rearranging, alive with alien power. Elara's soldiers tensed, their weapons aimed at his back. "Captain," one whispered. "This isn't right. He knows too much." Elara said nothing. Her own blade was ready, her eyes fixed on Kale. The vault began to open with a slow, grinding moan. A blast of icy air escaped, carrying the smell of dust and something older. Something wrong. Inside the vault was darkness. A darkness too deep, too heavy, as if light itself was afraid to enter. Kale turned his head slightly, his voice steady. "This is what you wanted," he said. "But be careful, Captain. The weapon doesn't care who it saves, or who it kills." Words made Ilara's heart pound, because in that moment, she realized something she had never allowed herself to believe. This mission wasn't just about finding the weapon, it was about surviving it. The betrayal. The vault door groaned open, and the darkness inside breathed out like a living thing. Cold air wrapped around the soldiers, heavy and damp, carrying the weight of centuries. Their armor sensors flickered with static. "Stay sharp," Elara whispered. Her voice was steady, but inside her chest, her heart hammered like a drum. They stepped into the vault, boots echoing against stone that had not felt footsteps for ages. The walls were covered in alien carvings, lines of shifting light that moved, like rivers. The deeper they walked, the stronger the humming grew, not from their equipment, but from the walls themselves. The whole place was alive, pulsing like the inside of a beast. And then they saw it. The weapon. It floated above a stone pedestal, a sphere of black metal wrapped in glowing strands of energy. Lightning crawled across its surface, cracking the air with every spark. It was small, no bigger than a soldier's helmet, but its presence filled the chamber like a sun. Every soldier froze, staring at it with wide eyes. Some whispered prayers. Some whispered curses. Elara tightened her grip on her blade. "Secure it," carefully. But Kale was already moving. He walked straight to the pedestal, slow but sure, as though he had done this before. His hand hovered, just inches from the sphere, and the energy around it shifted toward him, reaching out like vines drawn to light. "Stop." Elara's voice cut like steel. Kale paused, his hand still suspended in the air. "You said this was our mission." He replied, calm, almost gentle. "This is what we came for." Elara raised her blade, its glow painting the chamber in sharp light. "You know too much. You knew how to open the vault. You knew how to guide us here. And now, you touch alien code like it's yours. Tell me why." The soldiers behind her tensed. Blasters hummed, all pointed at Kale. The air was suffocating with silence. Kale turned his head slowly, meeting Elara's eyes. His expression carried no fear, no hesitation. Only that same infuriating calm that had haunted her since the ruins. "Because it is mine," he said. The words struck harder than any weapon. Elara's soldiers gasped. One muttered, "I knew it. He's with them." Her blade trembled, but she did not lower it. "Explain," she demanded. Kale's gaze didn't waver. "When the Veyari captured me, they didn't just torture me. They didn't just break me. They tried to rebuild me. They taught me their science, their codes, their secrets. I learned everything they knew because they wanted me to be there." Weapon. He stepped closer to the sphere, the glow wrapping around him like a lover. But they made one mistake. They thought I would serve them. Elara's throat tightened. She wanted to believe him. She wanted to believe that this was still humanity's fight. But the sphere's energy clung to him like it recognized him, like he belonged to it. "You're lying," she whispered, though her voice cracked. Kale smiled faintly, though there was no humor in it. "If I was lying, Captain, the vault would have killed me the moment I touched it." And then the weapon reacted. The sphere flared, beams of light shooting outward, striking the walls. The chamber shook as ancient machinery came alive. Alarms wailed, not human sounds, but alien frequencies that drilled into their skulls. The vault was waking up. Soldiers panicked, shouting, aiming weapons at Kale. One fired, but the shot bent midair, warped by the weapon's energy, and slammed harmlessly into the wall. Elara's instincts screamed at her. She could kill him now, end it before he turned into whatever monster the Veyari had planned. But another instinct, the one she hated most, whispered that he was telling the truth, that he was the key. Kale's voice cut through the chaos. "We don't have time, Elara. The Veyari will come. They always come when this place wakes. If you kill me now, humanity dies. If you let me finish, we might just survive." The chamber shook harder, dust falling from the ceiling. The soldiers shouted, torn between aiming at Kale and aiming at the darkness beyond the vault. And in that moment, Elara realized the betrayal wasn't Kale's. The betrayal was Command's. They had known. They had sent her here with him, not to control the mission, but to watch him, to judge if he could be trusted with the weapon. And now the decision was hers. Her blade hovered an inch from Kale's throat. His eyes never blinked. His smile was small, sharp, and utterly calm. "Choose," he whispered. And then, before she could answer, the ground trembled with a sound that froze every heart in the chamber. Roar. Alien. Echoing through the vault. The Veyari had arrived. The vault shook like a beating heart, every pulse echoing through the chamber. The black sphere hovered above its pedestal, glowing brighter, reacting to Kale's presence as if it had been waiting for him. And then came the roar again. It wasn't just a sound. It was a vibration that rattled bones, that scraped against nerves like claws. The soldiers clutched their helmets, some dropping to their knees. Elara forced herself to stand, even as her vision blurred. The Veyari had found them. Shadows moved. Beyond the vault doors, tall, thin shapes with armor that shimmered like liquid metal, their eyes burning with cold light. The Veyari hunters stepped into the chamber, their weapons humming, their movements inhumanly smooth. The soldiers panicked, raising rifles, firing blasts of plasma. The shots hit the Veyari, but their armor rippled, bending the energy away. They kept walking, unhurried, like predators who had cornered prey with no chance of escape. "Captain!" One of her men screamed. "Orders!" Alara froze, torn between two choices. Kill Kale now, or trust him with the very weapon that seemed alive in his hands. Before she could answer, Kale moved. He touched the sphere. The weapon screamed to life. Bolts of light shot outward, bending through the air, striking the Veyari hunters. Their bodies convulsed, armor shattering like glass under the force. For the first time in her life, Alara saw the Veyari fall back. Her soldiers gaped in shock. Kale stood in the middle of it all, his hands still on the sphere, his eyes glowing, faintly with the same energy that wrapped the weapon. His voice was low, steady, but powerful enough to carry over the chaos. "They're not gods," he said. "They're not invincible. And I know how to kill them." Alara's blood ran cold. She wanted to demand answers, but there was no time. The Veyari regrouped, moving faster now, their weapons spitting fire. Explosions rocked the chamber. The soldiers scrambled for cover. Kale didn't flinch. He stepped closer to the pedestal, his voice steady. "You want the truth, Captain? You'll get it, but you won't like it." The sphere's glow intensified, casting alien shadows across his face. "When they captured me," Kale said, his eyes never leaving the weapon, "they didn't just torture me. They rebuilt me, bone, blood, mind, rewired with their code. I was supposed to be their perfect weapon. A human with the power of a Veyari. A hybrid." Alara's heart lurched. The whispers, the rumors, they weren't rumors. Kale's smile was thin, bitter, but they underestimated me. They thought they had made me loyal. They thought I would bow. His eyes burned brighter, fire and fury. Instead, I learned. I learned every weakness, every secret, every way to destroy them. The chamber trembled, the sphere responding to his anger. Sparks leapt across the walls, forming alien runes that pulsed like living veins. Alara shouted over the roar. "Why? Didn't you tell anyone? Why keep this secret?" Kale's gaze finally turned to her. There was no smile now, only the weight of years carved into his expression. "Because your leaders wouldn't trust me. Because your soldiers would fear me. Because every time I tried, they looked at me the way you're looking at me now. Like a monster." His words cut deeper than any blade. Because he was right. That was how she was looking at him. Another explosion rocked the vault. A soldier screamed as a Veyari spear of light tore through his chest. The humans were being slaughtered, their weapons barely scratching the enemy. Kale shouted, his voice booming through the chamber. "You want to survive? Then listen. This weapon isn't a bomb. It's not a shield, it's a key. A key to the Veyari's core." Alara's breath caught. "Their core?" Kale nodded, gripping the sphere tighter as it pulsed in his hands. "Their strength doesn't come from numbers. It doesn't come from their weapons. It comes from the heart world, the source of their power, hidden beyond the veil. Destroy it, and their empire burns." Alara's mind raced. The Resistance had dreamed of a weapon strong enough to cripple the Veyari fleets. But this was bigger. This wasn't just about winning battles. This was about ending the war. But the price, her eyes locked on Kale, his skin glowing faintly with alien light, his voice laced with both human fury and something else entirely. The price might be him, Captain. One of her soldiers cried, firing blindly at the advancing aliens. What do we do? Ilara's instincts screamed at her to stay in control, to keep Kale under her blade. But another instinct, the one that terrified her most, whispered that this man, half human, half something else, might be humanity's only chance. The vault shook harder, dust falling in sheets. More Veyari poured in, their numbers endless, their advance unstoppable. Kale looked at her, his voice calm amid the storm. You wanted the truth. Here it is. I'm not your enemy. I'm the only weapon you've got. Now choose, Captain. Do you want me at your side, or do you want to bury humanity's last chance right here? The chamber erupted in fire and screams, and Ilara realized the betrayal was bigger than Kale, bigger than command, bigger than anything she had feared. The betrayal was the war itself, a war that had forced her to choose between trusting a monster or losing the human race. The final battle of the chamber was a storm of fire and screams. Plasma bolts lit the darkness in strobe flashes. The Veyari moved like shadows of steel, cutting through human soldiers as though flesh and armor were nothing. The humans fired desperately, but every shot glanced off the enemy's shimmering armor. Every explosion barely slowed their advance. For every alien that fell, two more surged forward. The vault, once silent, ancient, and sacred, was now a slaughterhouse. Ilara fought in the thick of it, her glowing blade carving arcs of light through the air. She ducked under a Veyari strike, rolled, and drove her weapon into its chest. The creature shrieked, its body convulsing as sparks ripped through it. But even as it fell, three more closed in. Her soldiers were breaking, their formation shattered, their voices raw with panic. Captain, we can't hold them. Ilara, orders. But her voice caught in her throat. For the first time in years of endless battles, she had no order that could save them. And then Kale moved. He stepped forward, past the fallen bodies, past the chaos, his hand still gripping the black sphere. The weapon pulsed like a living heart. In his grasp, each beat sending ripples through the chamber. The Veyari turned toward him instantly, abandoning the soldiers. Their eyes glowed brighter, their voices rising in a single, unearthly hiss. They feared him. Kale raised the sphere, and his voice rang out deeper now, threaded with alien resonance. You think you made me yours, he growled. But I was never yours. The sphere erupted. Bolts of energy ripped outward in jagged arcs, striking the Veyari with unrelenting fury. Their armor shattered like glass under the onslaught. Their bodies twisted, broken, as alien screams filled the chamber. For the first time, the soldiers saw something impossible. The Veyari running, but the victory was not clean. Ilara's eyes widened as Kale staggered, veins of light crawling up his arm where he gripped the sphere. His skin burned with glowing patterns, the same alien runes etched into the vault walls. His voice cracked with power he should not have possessed. Kale! Ilara shouted, cutting through the roar of battle. What's happening? His teeth clenched, his face pale with strain. It's too much. The sphere isn't a weapon, Ilara. It's a conduit. It needs a host to control it. And right now, he gasped, falling to one knee as the light spread across his chest. It's using me. Ilara's stomach twisted. The weapon wasn't just burning through him. It was consuming him. The chamber shook violently. Runes lit up along the walls. Streams of light forming maps, diagrams, star systems. At the center of it all, the sphere projected a vision into the air. A colossal black world surrounded by alien fleets. The Heart World. The source of the Veyari's strength. Ilara's breath caught. Kale hadn't been lying. The weapon wasn't just for battle. It was a key to the enemy's greatest secret. But the price. Kale's body convulsed, his scream ripping through the chamber. The energy flared out of him, tearing through more Veari soldiers like lightning through paper. He collapsed, but even on the ground, the power surged through him, unstoppable. The soldiers stared in horror. Some raised their weapons at him, fear etched in their faces. He's turning into one of them. He'll kill us all. Elara stood frozen, her blade trembling. She could see it too, the alien light swallowing him inch by inch. His human form dissolving into something other dot, and then his eyes locked on hers. Elara? His voice was ragged, half human, half alien resonance. I can hold it, just long enough, but you have to trust me. Take the sphere when I fall, and finish it. Her heart split in two. If she killed him now, she might save her soldiers. But humanity would lose its only chance to strike at the Veari's heart. If she let him go on, he might destroy the enemy, or he might lose himself completely and become the very monster the Veari wanted. The chamber quaked again. The Veari screamed in fury, more pouring through the vault doors. The soldiers barely held their line, blood painting the floor. Kale rose unsteadily, light blazing from every vein, his voice thunderous now. I am not yours, he roared at the enemy. I am human. The sphere flared brighter than a star. A wave of pure energy exploded outward, disintegrating dozens of Veari in an instant. The chamber cracked, ceilings collapsing, the ruins trembling as if the world itself would shatter. Elara shielded her eyes from the glare, her body shaking with the force of the blast. When the light dimmed, Kale stood at the center, barely recognizable. Half of his face burned with alien patterns, his skin glowing, his eyes blazing with fire. His voice was lower, unearthly, but still his. Elara, he whispered. Now, decide. Her soldiers screamed around her, calling for retreat, for survival, for anything. But all Elara could see was him, the man who might save humanity or doom it forever. The battlefield wasn't just the vault anymore. The battlefield was her choice. The ending the vault shook as if the planet itself wanted to tear free of its skin. Stone cracked, pillars collapsed, dust rained down in choking clouds. The black sphere pulsed brighter and brighter in Kale's grip, every beat echoing like a war drum. The soldiers were breaking, shouting over the thunder of destruction. Captain, we have to retreat. We'll all die here. Forget the weapon, just run. But Elara did not move. Her blade hummed in her hands, pointed at the man who was no longer entirely human. Kale stood at the center of the storm, glowing veins spreading across his skin, half his face etched with alien symbols that burned like fire. His voice shook the chamber, resonant and inhuman, but his eyes were still Kale's, still human. Elara? His voice cracked, filled with both fury and pain. This is the only chance. Take the sphere, destroy the heart world. And them. Another wave of Veari stormed through the vault doors, their screeches slicing through the chaos. Dozens of them, hundreds. Their bodies shimmered with rage, their weapons cutting through the dark. The soldiers fired desperately, their plasma bolts swallowed by alien shields. One by one, her people fell, their screams snuffed out like candles in the storm. Elara's chest burned. Her instincts screamed to retreat, to survive, to save at least a handful of her soldiers. But her heart whispered another truth. There was no survival. Not unless this ended here. Not unless Kale was right. She looked at him one last time. Man who smiled when death stared him in the face. The man who carried the secrets of their enemy. The man who was becoming the very weapon humanity had prayed for. And fear. Her grip tightened on her blade. And then she made her choice. Pastorisk with a cry, Elara leapt forward. Soldiers gasped, thinking she was about to strike Kale down. But instead, She drove her glowing blade into the pedestal beneath the sphere. Weapon screamed, light exploding outward in a flood of energy. The sphere broke free of its bindings, falling directly into Kale's arms. He staggered but held it tight, the power wrapping around him like chains of fire. The Veari shrieked in terror. Not anger, not fury. Terror. They rushed forward, but Kale raised the sphere high. His voice roared, shaking the ruins to their core. No more. Humanity will not kneel. The sphere answered. A wave of blinding light erupted from Kale's body, surging outward in a dome of pure energy. The Veari closest to him disintegrated instantly, their bodies torn apart by forces too great to resist. The wave spread, ripping, through enemy after enemy, until the vault was nothing but ash and silence. But the light didn't stop. It reached higher, breaking through the planet's surface, streaking into the skies. And then it spread farther still, carrying a signal across the stars. Alara saw it in the vision that filled the chamber, the heart world. Black, massive, pulsing with alien life. The light touched it, and for the first time in history, the Veari screamed not as hunters, but as prey. The heart world shuddered. Its fleets trembled. Entire legions collapsed in agony as their power faltered. The Empire had been wounded. Elira's triumph turned to dread as her eyes snapped back to Kale. The light was eating him alive. His body cracked with glowing fissures, every breath a scream of agony. The sphere's energy surged through him, tearing apart flesh and bone, replacing it with alien fire. Alara. His voice was weak now, trembling. It's done. They're broken, but it's burning me out. I can't. He collapsed to his knees, clutching the sphere. The glow consumed him inch by inch, stripping away humanity, leaving only the weapon. Alara ran to him, falling to her knees beside him, grabbing his arm. Fight it, Kale. Don't you dare give in. He laughed, a hollow, broken sound, blood on his lips. You always hated me, Captain. But at least I proved I was still one of you. Her throat tightened. For the first time in years, her hands shook not from battle, but from grief. She wanted to scream. She wanted to strike the weapon down. But she knew the truth. This was the cost. And Kale knew it too. He pressed the sphere into her hands, his fingers trembling. Take it. Carry it home. Finish this war. Ilara's eyes burned. Kale, but his smile returned, faint, human. The same smile he wore in the ruins when she first pointed a blade at him. You're still holding it wrong. And then, with one last burst of light, Kale was gone, consumed. The chamber fell silent. The weapon pulsed once in her hands, then dimmed, its fury contained. The surviving soldiers stood in shock, their weapons lowered, their eyes wide. The Veari were gone, their screams fading into the void. The vault was collapsing around them. But none moved. Alara rose, the sphere heavy in her hands, her blade at her side. For the first time, she felt the weight of both victory and loss pressing down together. She turned to her soldiers, her voice strong despite the crack in her heart. Kale gave us this chance. We're not running anymore. We finished the fight. They saluted, their fear replaced with something rare, hope. The planet shook as they fled the vault, the ruins collapsing behind them, burying the place where Kale had made his stand. Above, in the cold black sky, the stars burned brighter. Somewhere far away, the Veari heart world trembled, wounded, afraid, and for the first time in centuries, humanity stood not as prey, but as hunters. Alara looked at the weapon in her hands, its faint hum echoing Kale's last words. This was not the end. It was the beginning of the final dawn.